Inside the rift, Captain Taman felt like he was drowning in liquid starlight. His shuttle had dissolved the moment it entered the rift's core, but somehow he was still alive, floating in a space that didn't follow normal rules of physics. Colors that had no names swirled around him, and he could hear sounds that seemed to come from the birth and death of universes. The equation appeared in his mind not as numbers or symbols, but as living mathematics that changed and shifted like a breathing creature. Every time he tried to solve one part of it, 3 other parts would transform into something completely different. But he wasn't alone. Through the communication link that Park Ji-won had established, he could feel the minds of everyone in the human fleet. Hundreds of people thinking the same thought at the same time. Save the innocent lives that would be lost if the rift continued to grow. And it wasn't just humans. The alien crews that had joined their cause were somehow connected too. Zephyrians, constructors, even some crystalline beings who had broken away from the eternal hegemony. Their minds added strength to the collective effort, bringing different ways of thinking to the impossible problem. "I can see the pattern now," Taman said, his voice somehow carrying across the communication link despite being inside a dimensional tear. "The equation isn't trying to be solved by one brilliant mind. It's designed to require cooperation." Park Ji-won's voice reached him from the curiosity. "The mathematics are stabilizing. Everyone stay focused on the same goal." As hundreds of minds worked together, the equation began to make sense. It wasn't asking for advanced technology or superior intelligence. It was asking for something much simpler and much rarer, the willingness of different species to work together for the greater good. But the rift wasn't going to give up easily. Taman felt the cosmic wound trying to tear apart his mind, showing him visions of human defeat and alien triumph. It tried to make him angry, to fill him with hatred for the species that had condemned humanity to death. But every time anger began to rise in his heart, he remembered the alien ships that had broken away from the hegemony fleet to help him. "The rift feeds on negative emotions," he reported, his voice strained but determined. "It grows stronger when people hate each other, but it's getting weaker as we work together." Dr. Choi Mina's voice came through the link from the precursor. "Ruins. Captain, I'm reading the final chamber of the installation. The precursors left a message specifically for whoever would succeed in closing the rift." Even as he struggled with the living equation, Taman could hear her reading the ancient words. "To those who choose unity over division, cooperation over conquest and sacrifice over selfishness, you have proven yourselves worthy inheritors of the stars. The test is complete." Suddenly, the rift around Taman began to change. The chaotic swirling energies started to organize themselves into stable patterns. The equation that had been impossible to solve was now revealing its solution, not through complex calculations, but through the simple act of different minds working toward the same unselfish goal. "It's working," shouted Kim Doyen from his mining ship. "The rift is stabilizing." But even as success seemed within reach, the eternal hegemony made one last desperate attempt to stop the humans. The remaining hegemony ships, commanded by leaders who would rather see the galaxy burn than admit they were wrong, fired their most powerful weapons at the human fleet. Kang Sua was ready for them. Her stealth ship Shadow had been positioned perfectly to intercept the attack. But she wasn't alone. Alien ships that had joined the human cause threw themselves between the weapons and their targets, willing to sacrifice themselves to protect the mission. The battle was brief but decisive. Species that had been enemies for centuries fought side by side, their combined efforts overwhelming the hegemony forces. Most of the enemy ships surrendered when they realized that the entire galaxy was watching their actions. Inside the rift, Taman felt the final piece of the equation fall into place. But instead of the destructive release of energy that everyone expected, something wonderful happened. The rift didn't close. It transformed. The chaotic tear in space became a stable wormhole network, connecting the 3 threatened star systems with safe passages for travel and communication. The precursor installation, hidden beneath the rift for millions of years, rose from the planet's surface and began broadcasting information that would advance galactic civilization by thousands of years. "Captain?" Park Ji-won called out in amazement. You're not dying. The energy readings show that the rift is actually supporting your life force. It's bringing you back. A pillar of gentle light extended from the transformed rift, carrying Taemin safely back to his fleet. As he stepped onto the bridge of the Determination, the first thing he saw was the faces of his crew, tired, relieved, and proud of what they had accomplished together. But the real surprise came when Song Woo-bin activated the main viewing screen. Captain, we're receiving thousands of transmissions from across the galaxy. Every major civilization wants to congratulate humanity on solving the Nexus crisis. The screen filled with alien faces, some familiar from the Galactic Council, others completely unknown. But they all had the same expression: respect. High Chancellor Vorthak appeared on the screen, his crystalline body dim with what looked like shame. Captain Taemin, the Galactic Council formally apologizes for our treatment of your species. You have accomplished what we deemed impossible, and you did it in a way that saved not just the threatened systems but our concept of what it means to be civilized. Other aliens followed with their own messages. The Zephyrians offered to share their reality manipulation technology. The constructors wanted to collaborate on new engineering projects. Even species that had never before made contact with humans were asking to open diplomatic relations. But the most important message came from an unexpected source. The artificial intelligence that had been created from the precursor technology revealed by the rift's transformation. Greetings, inheritors, the AI said in a voice that sounded like music made from starlight. I am the final gift of the precursor civilization. For millions of years, I have waited for a species to prove that intelligence and power can be guided by wisdom and compassion. The AI explained that the precursors had transcended physical existence long ago, but they had left behind this test to find species worthy of their knowledge. Humanity had not just passed the test, they had exceeded it by bringing together former enemies in common cause. The technology I offer will allow faster-than-light communication across the galaxy, new methods of energy production that can power entire civilizations without harming planets, and medical knowledge that can extend life and eliminate disease. The AI continued. But more importantly, I offer the chance for all species to learn from each other and grow together. Over the following days, the transformed Nexus became the site of the first true galactic conference. Representatives from hundreds of species met to discuss not conquest or competition, but cooperation and mutual benefit. Humans found themselves at the center of these discussions, not as leaders, but as facilitators who had proven that different minds working together could accomplish more than any individual achievement. Park Ji-won was offered positions at research institutes across the galaxy, but she chose to establish a new scientific academy at the Nexus site where human and alien researchers could work together. Kim Do-yeon's primitive but effective engineering philosophy revolutionized industrial design throughout civilized space. Dr. Choi Mina became the galaxy's leading expert on precursor archaeology, helping other species understand the ancient wisdom that valued cooperation over competition. Kang Sua founded an interspecies security force dedicated to preventing the kind of sabotage and manipulation that the eternal hegemony had practiced. Song Woo-bin's broadcasts of the human mission became required study at diplomatic academies, showing future leaders how enemies could become allies when working toward common goals. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy saw itself. The old system of competition and mistrust began to give way to something new. A community of worlds working together to explore the universe and solve problems that no single species could handle alone. Captain Taemin stood on the bridge of the Determination 6 months later, watching as human and alien children played together on a space station that had been built around the transformed Nexus. The station was a symbol of what the galaxy could become, different species sharing knowledge, resources, and dreams. Any regrets about giving up that quiet retirement you planned? Park Ji-won asked, joining him at the viewing window. Taemin smiled as he watched a human child teaching an alien child how to throw a ball while their parents worked together on a project that would bring clean water to a dozen worlds. The impossible, he said quietly, turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed. The title of their story had proven to be more accurate than anyone realized. In just 24 hours, humans had indeed shattered the impossible. But what they had really done was show that the impossible was just another word for something that required cooperation instead of conquest. And across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds filled with billions of beings, life had become a little brighter because a small group of humans had chosen to try saving everyone. 1 hour remained. Captain Taman stood in the shuttle bay of the Determination, putting on the special suit that would protect him during his journey into the rift's core. Around him, his crew made final preparations for what everyone knew might be a suicide mission. The suit looked nothing like the advanced armor that other species had used. Kim Doyen had built it using simple materials, steel plates, basic life support, and a communication system that was barely more complex than a radio. But it was designed with one crucial feature. It was meant to be transparent to the rift's sensors. Like the mining drones, it was too simple to be seen as a threat. The equation changes every nanosecond, Park Ji-won explained one last time, checking her calculations on her tablet. But we found the pattern. It's not random. It's responding to the mental state of whoever is trying to solve it. If you go in with pure intentions, focused only on saving lives, the equation should stabilize. She paused, looking worried. But Captain, even if the math works, the physical stress of being inside that thing, no one has ever survived it. Taman nodded calmly. I understand the risks. But before he could step toward his shuttle, Kang Sua grabbed his arm. Sir, we have a problem. The Eternal Hegemony ships are moving into attack positions. They're not waiting for us to finish. They're planning to destroy the fleet now while we're focused on the rift. Through the shuttle bay windows, they could see alien warships emerging from behind asteroids and disabled space stations. The enemy had been hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sleek vessels with weapons that could destroy planets were now pointing their guns at the small human fleet. How many ships? Taman asked. 12 major warships plus support craft. Kang Sua replied grimly. We're outnumbered 20-1 and their weapons are far more advanced than ours. Song Wubin's voice crackled over the communication system from the bridge. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Hegemony flagship. They're demanding our surrender. Put them through, Taman ordered. The shuttle bay speakers filled with a cold mechanical voice that belonged to a constructor, one of the machine beings from the Galactic Council. Human vessels, you have interfered with galactic security long enough. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make you suffer before you die. The voice changed to something that sounded like grinding stone, one of the crystalline beings. The rift will consume the Kepler sector regardless of your pathetic efforts, but your species will not live to see it happen. Taman looked around the shuttle bay at his crew. Everyone was scared, but no one was backing down. These were people who had volunteered to fly into the unknown to save billions of alien lives, even though those aliens wanted them dead. Send a reply, Taman said calmly. Tell them we decline their generous offer. But even as he spoke, his mind was racing. They couldn't fight 12 warships and close the rift at the same time. The mission would fail, and humanity would be wiped out. Unless, change of plans, he announced. We're not running from this fight, we're broadcasting it. Song Wubin looked confused. Sir? Open channels to every inhabited world in the galaxy, Taman ordered. I want everyone watching. Show them what's really happening here. Within minutes, the human fleet's transmissions were being picked up by billions of alien receivers across thousands of worlds. What they saw was a small group of human ships facing impossible odds, not to save themselves, but to save alien worlds that had condemned them to death. Dr. Choi Mina's voice came over the communication system from the archaeological site. Captain, I found the final piece of the precursor message. You need to hear this. Her transmission included a holographic projection of the ancient symbols she had discovered, but now, with the complete message decoded, the meaning was clear. The precursors didn't just want to test individual species, she explained. They wanted to create a moment when the entire galaxy would have to choose between selfishness and sacrifice. The rift was designed to threaten everyone, forcing the galactic community to work together or watch everyone die. As her words spread across the open communication channels, something unexpected began to happen. On worlds throughout the galaxy, ordinary aliens started to understand what was really going on. The humans weren't trying to prove they were superior. They were trying to save everyone, including their enemies. The first ship to break away from the hegemony fleet was a small Zephyrian vessel. Its captain, a being named Veltar, sent a message that was picked up by the galactic broadcast. "I will not be part of this murder," Veltar announced. "The humans came here to save lives, not take them. I stand with them." Other ships began to follow. Not many at first, but enough to change the balance of power. The Eternal Hegemony found themselves facing not just human ships, but a growing coalition of aliens who were ashamed of what their leaders were doing. Meanwhile, Park Ji-won had made a breakthrough with her calculations. "Captain, I think I know why no one has survived entering the rift before. They were trying to solve the equation alone. But what if it's designed to require multiple minds working in perfect harmony?" She had been studying the quantum consciousness theory that seemed to govern the rift's behavior. The equation wasn't just mathematical. It was based on the collective thoughts and intentions of everyone involved in solving it. "Every human in the fleet needs to think about the same thing at the same time," she explained. "Not glory, not victory, not even survival, just the simple desire to save innocent lives." Kim Do-yeon looked up from his mining equipment with sudden understanding. "That's why our simple technology is working. It's not about the machines, it's about the people using them. We're not trying to prove we're better than anyone. We're just trying to help." As the final hour approached, everything came together in a way that no one had expected. The human fleet wasn't fighting the Eternal Hegemony alone anymore. Ships from dozens of alien species had joined them, creating an impromptu alliance of beings who had chosen cooperation over conquest. Taman climbed into his shuttle, but he wasn't going into the rift alone. Hundreds of human minds would be connected to his, sharing the mental burden of the impossible equation. And around the rift, alien ships were positioning themselves to provide support, their crews working alongside humans for the first time in galactic history. "All stations report ready," came the voices of his crew over the communication system. "Alien, allied vessels in position," reported Song Woo-bin. "Mining drones have cleared a path to the rift's core," confirmed Kim Do-yeon. "Archaeological data uploaded to all vessels," announced Dr. Choi Mina. "Enemy ships neutralized or converted," reported Kang Sua with satisfaction. As Taman's shuttle launched toward the swirling vortex of the rift, he realized that humanity had already accomplished something unprecedented. They had brought together species that had been enemies for centuries, united by a common desire to save innocent lives. The real test wasn't whether one person could solve an impossible equation. It was whether an entire galaxy could learn to work together when everything depended on it. "This is Captain Lee Taman," he said into his radio as his shuttle approached the rift's edge. "I'm going in. If I don't come back, remember that we tried to save everyone, even the ones who wanted us dead." The shuttle disappeared into the swirling darkness of the rift, carrying with it the hopes of billions of beings across the galaxy. In space around the rift, human and alien ships waited together, their crews, holding their breath as they watched their instruments. Deep inside the cosmic wound, one human was about to attempt something that might save them all or destroy everything. The final test had begun. The human research ship Determination cut through space like a silver arrow, racing toward the Kepler sector at maximum speed. In the engine room, Kim Do-yeon wiped sweat from his forehead as he pushed the ship's systems beyond their normal limits. Every minute counted now. The ship's main laboratory buzzed with activity. Scientists and engineers worked at computer stations, their screens filled with data about the Nexus Rift. Captain Taman stood in the center of it all, watching his people work with quiet determination. "Show me everything we know about the previous attempts," Taman said. Dr. Choi Mina, the team's expert on ancient alien technology, pulled up holographic displays that filled the air around them. The images showed the massive rift from different angles, a wound in space that seemed to pulse with its own dark heartbeat. The Zephyrians tried first 2 years ago, she explained, pointing to one of the displays. They're masters of reality, manipulation. They can bend space and time with their minds. They sent a team of 50 of their best reality benders. The hologram showed silver-skinned aliens floating around the rift, their bodies glowing with power. But as they watched, something terrible happened. The energy they created to seal the rift was absorbed by it instead. The rift grew larger and the Zephyrian team simply vanished. Next, the constructors tried a technological approach, Mina continued. They built the most advanced artificial intelligence probe ever created. It could think faster than any living mind and had access to millions of years of scientific knowledge. Another image showed a massive metal sphere approaching the rift. The sphere was covered in sensors and tools, bristling with advanced equipment. But as it got close to the rift, the metal began to twist and break apart. In seconds, the probe was reduced to scattered pieces of junk. The Mentari were the most recent attempt just 6 months ago, Mina said, her voice getting quieter. They're the strongest psychic species in the galaxy. They can read minds across star systems and move objects with pure thought. They believed they could communicate with whatever intelligence was controlling the rift. The final image was the most disturbing. 3 Mentari, beings that looked like floating jellyfish made of pure thought, approached the rift. But something went wrong. Their glowing bodies suddenly went dark, and they fell from the sky like dead leaves. They were still alive, but their minds were completely empty. Every approach failed, Taman said grimly. Advanced technology, reality manipulation, psychic power. Nothing worked. Kim Doyen looked up from his engineering station. His hands were black with grease from working on the ship's engines. Maybe that's the point, he said. Maybe the rift is designed to absorb advanced technology and unusual abilities. Park Ji-won nodded, her tablet in her hands as always. I've been analyzing the energy patterns. The rift seems to adapt to whatever is used against it. When the Zephyrians used reality bending, it learned to bend reality too. When the constructors used advanced AI, it became smarter than their machines. Song Wubin, their communications officer, suddenly looked up from his station with alarm. Captain, I'm picking up alien transmissions. They're not trying to hide them. Put them through the translator, Taman ordered. The ship's speakers crackled to life with voices speaking in various alien languages, but the translation computer quickly converted them to human speech. The humans will fail within 12 hours, said one voice that sounded like grinding stone. I bet they won't even make it past the rift's outer barrier, laughed another. Finally, we'll be rid of these troublesome primates, hissed a third. The transmissions went on and on. Dozens of alien species were watching and waiting for humanity to fail. Some were even placing bets on exactly how the humans would die. But there was something else in the transmissions that caught Song Wubin's attention. Captain, he said quietly, some of these conversations are strange. It sounds like certain aliens don't just want us to fail. They're actively working to make sure we fail. Kang Sua, the ship's security chief, stepped forward. She was a small woman, but Taman knew she was one of the most dangerous humans alive. Before joining the crew, she had worked in Earth's black operations, fighting secret wars that ordinary people never heard about. I'll look into that, she said, her voice cold and professional. If someone is sabotaging these attempts, I'll find out who and why. Dr. Choi Mina was still studying the ancient data when she made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I found something. The rift isn't just in empty space, it's positioned exactly over the ruins of a precursor installation. Everyone in the lab went quiet. The precursors were the greatest mystery in the galaxy. They had disappeared millions of years ago, but their technology was so advanced that modern civilization still couldn't understand it. Finding precursor ruins was like discovering the secret to controlling the universe itself. What kind of installation? Taman asked. It's hard to tell from the scans, but the architecture suggests it was some kind of testing facility, Mina replied. The precursors built it to evaluate something, or someone. Park Ji-won's eyes widened as she connected the pieces. What if the rift isn't a natural disaster or a weapon? What if it's a test left behind by the precursors? A test for what? Kim Do-yeon asked. To see who deserves to inherit their technology, Mina said slowly. Think about it. Every advanced civilization has tried to solve this problem using their greatest strengths. But what if those strengths are exactly what the test is designed to defeat? Taemin felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. The precursors want to find a species that can succeed where others failed, but not through superior technology or special abilities. Through something else, Park Ji-won finished. Something that the current galactic civilizations have lost, or never had. Song Woo-bin's communication station beeped with an urgent message. Captain, I'm getting a priority transmission from Earth Command. The main screen lit up with the face of Admiral Kim Jong-soo, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's military. His expression was grim. Captain Taemin, we've received intelligence that changes everything. The Galactic Council wasn't being entirely honest about the time limit. The rift is growing faster than they told you. At current rate of expansion, it will reach inhabited systems in 18 hours, not 24. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of computers and life support systems. There's more, the Admiral continued. Our deep space monitors have detected military fleets from several alien species moving toward the Kepler sector. If you fail, they're not planning to wait for the rift to consume those star systems. They're going to destroy them first, along with any humans in the area. The transmission ended, leaving Taemin and his crew staring at a blank screen. So we have 18 hours to solve a problem that destroyed the galaxy's greatest civilizations, Kim Do-yeon said. And if we fail, they'll kill us anyway, just to be sure. Kang Sua checked her weapons and started walking toward the ship's armory. Then we better not fail. But as the determination continued racing toward the Nexus Rift, everyone aboard knew they were flying toward what seemed like certain death. The question was whether they would die as failures or as the species that accomplished the impossible. 14 hours remained when the human fleet reached the edge of the Kepler sector. Captain Taemin stood on the bridge of the determination, looking at the massive rift that filled their main viewing screen. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a swirling vortex of impossible colors that hurt to look at directly. My God, whispered Song Woo-bin. It's huge. The rift stretched across space like a cosmic wound. Lightning that wasn't really lightning danced around its edges, and stars that got too close simply winked out of existence. 3 inhabited planets were visible in the distance, their surfaces glowing with the lights of billions of alien lives that would soon be consumed. All ships, this is Captain Taemin, he said into his communications device. Begin deployment according to the plan. What happened next would have surprised every alien species watching. Instead of sending their best ship toward the rift like the others had done, the human fleet split apart. Dozens of smaller ships spread out in different directions, each with a specific mission. Park Ji-won took command of the science vessel Curiosity, leading a team of the fleet's best mathematicians and physicists. Her job was to study the rift's patterns and find the mathematical key to closing it. But instead of using advanced alien technology, she had made an unusual request. Are you sure about this? Asked Dr. Nam Seojin, one of her team members, as they set up their equipment. Positive, Park Ji-won replied, watching as technicians connected hundreds of simple human computers together. Every alien species that tried to solve this used their most advanced systems. But what if the rift can only absorb technology that's trying to be smarter than it is? The computers she was using were basic models that could be found on any human colony ship. They weren't fast or powerful, but they were reliable and simple. More importantly, she wasn't trying to use them to control the rift. She was using them to understand it. The energy patterns change every nanosecond, she explained to her team. But they're not random. There's a pattern hidden in the chaos. I think the rift is responding to whoever is observing it. It changes because it knows. We're watching. Meanwhile, Kim Do-yeon was leading his own mission aboard a converted mining ship called Persistence. His approach was even stranger than Park Ji-won's. Instead of building new technology to fight the rift, he was using old mining equipment, drills, cargo haulers, and industrial fabricators that were designed for the simple job of digging holes in asteroids. Sir, are you sure this will work? asked Chief Mechanic Lee Hansel as he watched Kim Doyen weld together what looked like a giant mechanical fishing net. Every species that failed tried to be smarter than the rift, Kim Doyen replied, sparks flying from his welding torch. The Zephyrians used reality bending. The constructors used artificial intelligence. The Mentari used psychic powers. But what if the rift can't absorb something that's too simple to absorb? His plan was to use mining drones, stupid simple machines that knew how to do only one thing: dig through obstacles and keep going no matter what happened to them. If the rift absorbed advanced technology, maybe it couldn't handle technology. That wasn't advanced at all. Dr. Choi Mina had taken a team to the precursor ruins on the dead planet below the rift. Using careful archaeological techniques, she was excavating the ancient structures while the rift raged overhead. Her team worked frantically, but carefully, knowing that one wrong move could destroy priceless artifacts. "Professor, look at this," called out her assistant, Dr. Park Hyun-woo, as he brushed dust away from a wall covered in precursor symbols. The symbols were unlike anything they had seen before. Most precursor writing looked like complex mathematical equations, but these symbols seemed simpler, almost primitive. As Mina studied them, she began to understand their meaning. "It's not a technical manual," she said in wonder. "It's a story. The precursors are telling us about themselves." The story carved into the wall was about a great civilization that had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and individual achievement. They had been proud of their advanced minds and powerful abilities. But in their pursuit of perfection, they had forgotten something important: how to work together and sacrifice for others. They built this test not to find the most advanced species, Mina realized. They wanted to find a species that hadn't made the same mistake they did. While his team worked on different parts of the problem, Kang Sua was conducting her own investigation. She had detected the saboteurs that Song Wubin had identified in the alien transmissions, and she was tracking them down. Her ship, the Shadow, was designed for stealth operations. It could move through space almost invisibly, avoiding detection by even the most advanced sensor systems. She used this advantage to get close to the alien ships that were watching the human mission. What she discovered made her blood run cold. "Captain," she reported back to Taman, "I've identified the saboteurs. They call themselves the Eternal Hegemony, and they're not just any aliens. They're representatives from several of the most powerful species on the Galactic Council." The transmission was encrypted and scrambled to prevent interception. "They've been sabotaging every attempt to close the rift for the past 100 years. They don't want it closed because they're using it as an excuse to eliminate species they consider threats to their power." Taman felt anger burning in his chest. "They've been letting billions of people die just to maintain political control? It gets worse," Kang Sua continued. "They have ships positioned around the human fleet. If we succeed in closing the rift, they're planning to destroy us and claim that we died in the attempt. They'll tell the galaxy that humans were too weak to solve the crisis." This changed everything. Not only did humanity have to solve an impossible puzzle in just a few hours, but they also had to deal with enemies who would attack them whether they succeeded or failed. Song Wubin had been monitoring alien communications throughout the mission, and he made his own crucial discovery. The aliens weren't just watching the human attempt, they were broadcasting it across the galaxy as entertainment. "Captain, every civilized world is watching what we're doing," he reported. "They're treating this like a sporting event. Most of them think we'll be dead within the hour." But as Song Wubin listened to more transmissions, he noticed something interesting. Some of the alien voices sounded different. Not everyone was hoping for human failure. Some species seemed curious about the human approach. A few even sounded like they were rooting for the humans to succeed. "There are aliens out there who are tired of the current system," he reported. "They're hoping that someone will finally solve this crisis and bring change to the galaxy." With 10 hours left, all the pieces of the human plan began coming together. Park Ji-won's simple computers had mapped the rift's pattern and discovered that it wasn't just responding to technology. It was responding to the intentions of the people using the technology. The rift grew stronger when faced with selfish desires for power or glory. but it seemed confused by genuine attempts to help others. Kim Doyen's mining drones had successfully penetrated the rift's outer layers without being absorbed. The simple machines were too basic to trigger the rift's defensive systems. They were like insects flying through a spider web, too small and harmless to be noticed. Dr. Choi Mina had decoded the precursor message completely. The test was designed to find a species that would sacrifice everything for others, even for their enemies. The precursors had learned too late that individual achievement meant nothing without compassion and cooperation, and Kang Sua had gathered enough evidence to expose the Eternal Hegemony's crimes to the entire galaxy. But as the pieces came together, Taman realized that the final part of the solution would require something that no captain should ever have to ask of his crew. Someone would have to go into the rift's core and solve the mathematical equation from the inside, while the rift tried to destroy their mind and body. Previous attempts had failed because the people who tried were seeking glory or proving their species' superiority. But what if someone went in with no desire for glory at all? What if they went in simply to save lives, including the lives of aliens who wanted them dead? "I'll do it," Taman said quietly, and everyone on the bridge knew he meant it. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber hissed open with a sound that reminded Captain Lee Taman of steam escaping from a broken pipe. He walked forward, his black military boots clicking against the polished floor that seemed to glow. From within, behind him, his small team of humans looked tiny in the enormous space. The chamber was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling stretched up so high that Taman could barely see the top. Around the circular room, 12 different alien species sat in seats that floated in the air. Each seat was designed for a different type of body. Some had water tanks, others had special atmosphere bubbles, and a few glowed with strange energy. Taman had seen pictures of these aliens before, but being here in person was different. The crystalline beings looked like walking diamonds, their bodies catching light and throwing rainbow patterns on the walls. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, almost like they were made of silver smoke. The mechanical constructors clicked and whirred as their metal bodies moved. And there were others, species that looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. "Captain Lee Taman of the Earth Defense Force," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' crimes." Lieutenant Park Ji-won, standing just behind Taman, quietly pulled out her small tablet computer. She was the smartest person he knew, and right now he needed her brain working on whatever problem they were about to face. She started taking notes, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. High Chancellor Vorthak rose from the center seat. The crystalline being was 3 times taller than Taman, and when he moved, his body made musical sounds like wind chimes. Light seemed to bend around him as he spoke. "Humans," Vorthak said, and the words sounded like an insult coming from his crystal mouth. "Your species has spread across 12 star systems in just 50 years. You build colonies without permission. You take resources that do not belong to you. You bring chaos wherever you go." Taman kept his face calm, but inside he felt angry. Humans had never attacked anyone. They had only settled on empty planets, worlds that no one else wanted. But he knew better than to argue now. "The Galactic Council has watched your kind with growing concern," Vorthak continued. "You are reckless. You are primitive. You solve problems with violence when civilized beings use diplomacy and advanced technology." Around the circle, other aliens nodded their various heads, tentacles, or sensor arrays. Some made sounds that Taman guessed were agreement, clicking, buzzing, or musical tones that hurt his ears. A new alien stood up. This one looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. "The humans reproduce too fast," it said in a voice like grinding gears. "They adapt to any environment. They are like a disease that spreads across the galaxy." Park Ji-won's tablet made a soft beeping sound. She had found something important, but she kept her face neutral and continued typing. Taman trusted her completely. If anyone could figure out what was really happening here, it was her. "However," Vorthak said, raising one crystalline hand, The Galactic Council believes in fairness. We will give your species one chance to prove that you deserve to exist among civilized worlds. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet humming of alien technology. Taman felt his heart beating faster. This was it, the moment that would decide the future of all humanity. There is a problem that has challenged the greatest minds in the galaxy for 100 years, Vorthak explained. The Nexus Crisis. A dimensional rift has opened in the Kepler sector, threatening to destroy 3 star systems and everyone living there. The rift grows larger each day. Soon, it will consume everything. Images appeared in the air above the council chamber. Taman saw a tear in space itself, black and swirling with strange energy. Around it, stars flickered and died. Planets cracked apart. It looked like the universe itself was being eaten by something hungry and terrible. Every species in this council has tried to stop it. Vorthak continued. The Zephyrians used their reality-bending technology. The rift absorbed it and grew stronger. The constructors sent their most advanced artificial minds. The rift turned them to scrap metal. The psychic Mentari tried to communicate with it. 3 of their best mind speakers are now vegetables, their consciousness destroyed. Park Jiwon made another note on her tablet. Taman noticed she was frowning slightly. She had found something that worried her. We give humanity exactly 24 hours, Vorthak announced. If you can solve the Nexus Crisis, you will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Your species will be recognized as civilized and worthy of the stars. The chamber filled with the sounds of alien laughter, some high and musical, others low and rumbling like earthquakes. They thought this was funny. They expected humans to fail. And if we fail? Taman asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. Vorthak's crystal body flashed brighter. Then humanity will be quarantined. Every human world, every human ship, every human life will be eliminated to prevent your chaos from spreading further across the galaxy. The word quarantined sounded clean and scientific, but Taman knew what it really meant. Genocide. The complete destruction of his species. You have 1 Earth day, Vorthak said. 24 hours to do what the greatest civilizations in galactic history could not accomplish. Prove that humans deserve to live among the stars or accept that you are too dangerous to exist. The floating seats began to move, carrying their alien occupants toward different exits. The council meeting was over. Taman and his team stood alone in the enormous chamber. Sir, Park Jiwon whispered urgently. I need to show you something. Important. She turned her tablet screen toward him. The data scrolled too fast for him to understand, but her expression told him everything. This was worse than it seemed. Much worse. The rift isn't natural, she said quietly. The energy patterns don't match anything we know about dimensional tiers. Someone or something created this deliberately. Taman felt a chill run down his spine. A weapon? More than that, she said, still studying her data. It's a test, and I think it's designed to be impossible to solve. As they walked toward the exit, Taman's mind raced. Humanity had 24 hours to save itself. But if Park Jiwon was right, they weren't just racing against time. They were fighting against something that was meant to destroy them from the beginning. The real question was who wanted humanity dead and why.